Well, welcome back to the Adobe Sign 5-Star Signature Lounge here at Samovar. Today we're lucky enough to have my good friend and mentor Rob Jeppsen with us. Rob Jeppsen is a CEO and founder of an exciting new startup in the coaching space called Expoyant. Also well known for 15 Stevies.
Who's counting?
Oh, yeah, I know you're not. I was going to say 14 and mess with you, Rob, but...
Yeah, it's 15.
All right, 15 Stevies. But the exciting thing is Rob is someone who is probably one of the most passionate people I know about the topic of coaching and creating transformative experiences for your sellers. And so today I want to tackle this with you. I've got a ton of notes with me today.
It's going to be fun.
Thoughts. This is going to be awesome.
It's going to be good.
A lot of good thoughts from conversations we had earlier this week too with some of our other great thought leaders. Actually, I want to start pulling some of those in. Earlier, we had a conversation with Jim Dickey.
Yep.
And we had a conversation with Nancy Nardin, and both of them talked about the importance of coaching, right? And they talked about how coaching really impacts the sales cycle and the process. And Jim, we talked about closing rates, how they just keep going down, down, down. Quota attainment's been going down. And really, the question now is, Rob, what is the difference between coaching and training? How do we delineate that?
Super important question, super important delineation to start with. And I think that the people watching this is going to be a really important distinction to make fast. I like to go to a couple of like stories maybe. Not story, kind of some lines. First, common knowledge is not common practice. Training's job is to get us common knowledge. Mm-hmm. The leader's job is to get us to common practice. And that's why CEB has research that shows that training will give you a bump, but training layered in with really well thought out coaching will give you a 4x yield on your training investment.
4x yield.
4x yield on your training investment. And so that's what's interesting is that goes down to what is coaching really? Because when you go and do the research, all sales leaders know they got a coach. And so they all say, I do these studies all the time. We help the world's greatest sales teams have world-class coaching. We often start with a study on what's happening and what's your role. And sales leaders always tell us we are coaching. But when we talk to the reps, they say, no, you're not. And so when we ask leaders what's coaching, they say things like deal strategy sessions, pipeline reviews, QBRs, okay? And reps on the other side say, that's not coaching. I'm no different. All you did was kind of tell me what to do.
Right.
Coaching is really, how do you have someone go through this journey of intentional improvement? And I think my favorite way of telling this story is one of our large financial institution clients that we worked with was kicking off the program, and I asked, how's coaching? And the guys all joked because they said, oh, our boss is here, so coaching's awesome, right? And the star performer finally raised his hand and said, I'll tell you what I think about coaching. When I take a deal to my leader, and she helps me with it, and we win, then coaching is awesome. But if you're going to sit me in a room and talk about generic stuff, then it's a waste of my time. Now, I think that's a perfect way to set this up, Jake, because we can now say the problem isn't the C word of coaching. The problem is the generic stuff.
Yeah, the irrelevance of it.
You got it. So if they could say, instead of I take a deal, then it's great. What if I could have a rep say, when I have an activity I need to get better at, and I take it to them and I get better, then it's awesome. Or if there's a skill I got to develop and I take it to them and we get better, then it's awesome. Or if there's something I want to change. The problem is we don't have a good way for reps to self-correct. So instead, we too often self-destruct.
So we talk about things that might not be as relevant. How do we then be intentional about being relevant? How can coaching be relevant for leader and seller?
You picked the right word. You know, I think that if you took the word coaching and you swapped it out with relevant, sometimes it's hard to do, you have to modify a sentence, but instead of say, how do I coach my entire team, say, how do I stay relevant to my entire team? You'll find there's several things that will change instantly if you say that, because the first one that I would start with, Jake, is too often sales leaders say, I'm going to look at my team in a binary lens. There are those that are hitting goal, and then there are those that aren't, right?
Yep.
Now, what most often do they say I'm going to do with those that are hitting goal?
You're going to get more.
No, I'm going to stay out of their way.
Going to stay out
We're going to stay out of their way. I'm going to stay out of their way.
Right.
I'm going to let them do their thing. And what you do what you've chosen when you make that decision is, I'm not going to be relevant to them anymore.
Of course.
I'm going to stay out of their way.
Right.
Now,
because it seems like they don't need you.
You got it.
Right.
So I'm choosing to not be relevant to the most important. Now, here's the other thing that CEB taught us. Coaching drives intent to stay with the company. So yeah, you're going to get 4x lift on training. I love that. we've shown, the data shows that you'll get a 18 to 22% lift. I know you had Jim Dickey on.
Yep.
That's research that Jim should be required reading for every single sales leader. You'll get 18 to 22% lift in production if you have good coaching, okay? But more important than just the production, you're gonna see your star performers have a 57% increase in intent to stay with the company based on if they feel that you're relevant to them or not.
So here's an interesting thought, right? So we're saying the almost the natural instinct or the reaction is to get out of their way.
Right.
But the risk there is we're losing them. We're going to lose them.
It's easy to move now.
So if we coach them, not only are we getting a lift, but we're actually keeping them intentionally wanting to stay in the organization and giving back. Is that right?
At every performance band, stars are 57% more likely to stay and 30% more likely to leave, not by how much they're selling, but by what's the quality of coaching I receive from Jake Reni, my boss. Okay? And so you want to have those people get 18 to 22% lift in your stars. That's a lot. That's a lot of cash that you want to get. But more than that, you don't want to have them leave. And here's a bigger deal. Last year in the United States, 26% of salespeople switched jobs. Almost 1/3. Now, half got fired, half got tired. Okay?
Right.
So we don't want either of those. Coaching can help make it so you don't get fired for production reasons. Coaching can also make it so you don't get tired of being there and look for something new. So that's why this don't look binary. Instead, segment your team. I recommend having like 4 or 5 segments. Have the people that are hitting goal be your core performers. Then maybe you have high core and star above it, and maybe low core and poor below it. So now I have this ability of having a nice segment so everybody's at different stages. Poor, maybe your way that you're relevant is you help them change their activities. Low core, maybe the way that you're relevant to them is they develop new skills. Those core performers that are hitting gold, Jake, maybe now what I've learned is when someone hits the summit, they hit the mountaintop, let's find the next mountain to climb, right?
Right.
We just climbed Mount Hood, now we're gonna go find Kilimanjaro.
Let's jump higher.
That takes me from core to low core.
Right.
Those are hitting low core on Kilimanjaro, we're going to K2. That gets me to star. Those stars, now they're ready for Everest. When we get done with that, we'll hop on a rocket ship and do it in Mars. But that's what the stars want. They want someone to take them on the next journey.
So, okay.
So we help them get started on the journey that gets them started, and then when they hit the first summit, world-class coaches help them find the next summit. That's the first way you stay relevant.
Okay, so then what is the importance then, Rob, of this process to really helping our sellers improve?
So when you say what's the process of helping them improve?
What's the importance of this coaching process to helping our sellers
So the
improve?
importance is 2 things at least. Number 1 is production.
Okay.
Number 2 is engagement and retention.
Okay.
Both of those are important. Here's why. I think success comes in the margins. I don't mean the profit margins. The profit margins come in the marginal effort and the discretionary effort. And the way you get that is if you can have people start to feel like this is more than just a job. And the number 1 driver of that is the person that I'm working with and for. Am I working with them instead of for them? And do I believe that they really have my best interests at heart? And so that's something that can't be faked. That's something that's only experienced.
I know. I've asked myself that question.
It can only be experienced.
Right.
And so the world's greatest coaches understand where someone is on the journey, and they connect to that person's definition of awesome. It's one of the laws that you want these world-class coaches to have. That's law 3. Find their definition of awesome and connect to it. Everybody knows they got to hit goal, okay? So we don't make goal the definition of awesome by default. We want the rep to say, this is where I want to be, and the world-class coaches understand where they want to be, and then they help paint the pathway to get there. The way that I like to look at it, Jake, is too many sales managers act like a travel agent. And what does a travel agent do? They tell them, here's the destination, it's awesome, the beaches are good,
Yep.
you know, the spa and the massage you'll get there is unbelievable. And if you ask them, what was it like when you were there? Like, well, I actually haven't been there, but the brochure looks awfully nice. Okay? That's what too many sales managers are.
Yeah.
True or false?
Oh yeah, I haven't been there, but I'll sell it to you.
Yeah. We want instead to be not a travel agent. I want you to be a tour guide. Okay? So now we're gonna be in it. We're going to be on the tour. We're going to take them. We're going to say, if you look to the left, you'll see this. Watch out, it's about to be steep here. We're going to level up this way, and then we're going to get wherever we're going to go. Not because I read about it, but because I've done it, and I'm going to help you do it. World-class leaders in sales are not travel agents. They're tour guides.
I love that idea, the concept of travel agent versus tour guide. Rob, I want to be the tour guide.
Yep.
Leading you to awesome and what awesome looks like.
And guess what?
What does
your
awesome
rep
look like,
doesn't? They don't want to have to figure it out on their own.
No, of course
They
not.
want the tour guide. They want a freaking Sherpa to come with them and help them get there, right?
Right.
And so the great leaders say, I'll be a Sherpa. I'll help carry half of that load with you. We'll get you up there.
So how do we be the tour guide to show them what awesome looks like? What does awesome look like?
So awesome is going to be different for every person. So for someone that's a star performer, their definition of awesome might be we're ready to go summit Everest, okay?
Yeah.
And that's a whole different journey. Someone that's maybe on onboarding, or maybe someone that's, you can see they have they want to be a winner, they just don't know how. That's the other thing. Super important for every leader to get this that's watching this. I have not found the rep that when they wake up in the morning they say, I hope I suck today. Have not met that person. I hope I suck. I'm going to put at least 50% of my comp on up for grabs, and I hope I suck. They all want to win.
Yep.
So we need to understand the reason that I like a segmented approach rather than a binary approach is now I can do switchbacks. You think I've talked about mountains, okay?
Yeah.
There's two ways to climb a mountain. You say ready, set, go. Some people will just go straight to the top. Other people, they start to take switchbacks and they'll take breaks, and then you look down and you say, wow, look at the parking lot's like a little postage stamp now. And the farther you go, the farther you see you've come, then you start to look forward. Instead of just looking forward and getting intimidated, you look back and say, I can't believe how far I've come. Then you look forward and say, wow, I can get there. And so switchbacks are a great tool for leaders to create momentum. Rather than saying get there, we're going to get to the next switchback. And you can't get to the next switchback if you look at your team in a binary lens. The reason that a segmented approach is so important is it allows you to create switchbacks on a journey for a rep, and switchbacks create momentum. You'll go from I don't know how to do it to I got this faster than you ever thought possible.
You make a really interesting point here, because I think a lot of times talking about the tour guide versus the travel agent, when we've got that one rep who climbs right up the mountain, we almost want to create that experience that everyone has to do the same thing. We expect everyone to have that mentality of climbing up the mountain, but in reality, that's a fallacy.
And it's a mistake, because that's what makes people pull the rep cord at a board.
Right.
And here's the other thing as a sales leader, even if everyone doesn't get to the mountain, every switchback you get is representative of more income that comes in from that person's sales.
Right.
Okay. So even if I can't, best I ever did when I had a large team, about 750 reps, I got to 72% quota attainment. You had Jim Dickey here. They probably told you it's been falling every year for the last 6 years, and we're roughly half now.
Yep.
Okay? And the bigger your team, the harder it is. Small teams, you might do better than that half, easier than a large team. But every single bit of incremental effort and incremental success is worth a lot. Just that little 10% more goes a long way. And so if someone's chasing a switchback, some people, when you give them the mountain, they say, I got this. Now you still need to stay relevant to them, and that's a different way of staying relevant. You'll have other people that you're going to have to help them get to switchback 1, then switchback 2, switchback 3, but every one of those is worth something. What you do not want to do is have people say, ain't no way I'm getting there. The great story for sales leaders that you should all have, and I have this book on my bookshelf, you've seen it there before, is The Little Engine That Could.
Yeah.
The longer you keep a rep saying, I think I can, the more successful your org will be. But the minute that a rep says, ain't no way, then you're done. And so great leaders find ways to keep them saying, I think I can, I think I can. And the sooner you get them to, I got this, and they mean it, that's when you win.
That mindset matters.
Yes.
That 10% more matters.
Yes.
How do we create more moments that matter?
So the way we create moments that matter come first by understanding where they are in their journey.
Okay.
And then we have to understand what their definition of awesome is. So if we understand what their definition of awesome is, we as a leader, we have to create this picture of success. And one of the games, I literally do this game with leaders, and people that are watching do this. You guys, thank Jake for it, because this is a difference maker for your teams, okay? Put them into 3 teams, get 3 puzzles. We're gonna have a puzzle building competition. Team 1 has the puzzle with the box lid. Team 2 has the same puzzle, but take the box lid away. They don't get it, okay? Now they think that they are in a real bad place, and you're gonna hear them screaming and moaning about it, and it's gonna be hilarious, okay? Team 3 has the same puzzle, but put the wrong box lid on it. They don't know, but they are the victim of a mean joke, okay? Say ready, set, go, and everybody gets started. Everybody will make the frame, then team 1 will start looking at the colors, and they'll look at the box and they'll figure out where things go. Team 2 knows they don't have any leadership here, so they know they gotta hustle, and they'll start figuring out ways to see what clusters, they just won't know where it fits in the frame.
Okay.
Team 3 will do the same thing. They'll find the color clusters, but they're gonna waste all kinds of time looking at the box saying, where does it fit? The game now is how long does it take for them to realize that their leader has no idea what they're talking about? And when they figure it out, they get angry.
Of course.
I've seen them take my box and chuck it across the room. They've stomped on it, ripped it up, destroyed it. They get angry. They're competitive.
Right.
And then if they can figure it out fast, they have a chance to be competitive. But if they don't, then they get angry. And the takeaway on this is it's better to have no leadership than bad leadership. So when you say the moments that matter, find out what their definition of awesome is, whether it's the next summit or the next switchback. And then you've got to model that in a couple of different ways. There's 3 ways that I would recommend. Number 1, how do the activities need to change? If you've segmented your team, you should be able to say, here's what the activity levels look like for someone in the core versus a star. Okay? It may be only this much, but remember I told you success comes in the margins. Okay?
Right.
That extra 1 or 2 dials, the extra 2 meetings, extra 1 or 2 demos, that often is all that's the difference.
That matters, yeah.
And so if you can model that, then they say, okay, now it's not just a hypothetical, I've modeled it. Number 2, there are 4 competencies that drive compound growth for salespeople. Number of opportunities you chase, average deal size or revenue per customer, it's either way you want to look at it, win rate, and the last one is length of sales cycle. Okay? The generally accepted formula for growth is number of opportunities multiplied by average deal size multiplied by win rate divided by length of sales cycle equals lift. So if I got 10% better at each of those, 1.1 times 1.1 times 1.1 divided by 10% faster, 0.9, I'll grow by 48%. So that's what those 4 competencies are. Know what does the competency look like for this person versus what their definition of awesome is. Model that. And then finally run that calculation so you can dollarize it. Dollarize what the difference is in going from current state to future state. They go, I got to do that. And if it only is doing 10% more new opportunity starts and I'm doing 10, what's 10% more than 10? 11. So Jake would say, Rob, instead of the 10 deals you're chasing, we're going to get 10% more. We're going to figure out how to get you to 11. Maybe it's a few extra activities. Maybe it's targeting a little bit better. We understand our skill to success world enough as a leader, because I'm not a travel agent, I am a tour guide,
right,
that we can say, here is the activity that we change to make that competency work for you, and when you do, you can expect this to be the result. Those 3 things are what make you a manager into a world-class coach.
I hope everyone was taking notes on Rob's let's call it the algorithm of sales velocity.
The sales velocity
the formula
algorithm.
Of sales velocity. I hope you guys caught that, because that is killer. That is killer.
I've seen it change thousands and thousands of reps. When leaders operationalize that and they take it from being theory to real, it makes people understand that's what awesome looks like. So now I said this is the summit. What I needed was someone to give me a pathway to get there. That's how you do it. Activities, competencies, and then dollarize them. Those 3 things.
So let's wrap with this thought of now. This is a lot to take in, right?
Yes.
Whether we have a mature coaching model within an organization or really starting the beginning of a transformative process, but it's a lot. And how can technology help us, Rob? How can technology play a part in this process? Does it?
It absolutely does. The only way you can do this at scale, truthfully, is using good technology. Okay. Now, if you're a small organization, you can maybe live by counting things and doing math. But I did it at scale with, again, a very large organization with 750 reps, and the only way we could do it was technology. I believe that reps have to understand, and if you use it the right way, technologies, CRM technologies like maybe a Salesforce technology, if you're only using it for forecasting or so someone can manage activities, you'll never get there.
Right.
But if you coach people because of how they use those technologies, what you'll find is for the first time you as a leader have given them a reason to use it.
Sure.
So you have to have, like, there's a few non-negotiables for technology in the modern sales environment. You're going to have to use CRM. The problem is most leaders haven't ever given them a good reason to use it other than the forecast or so I can know what you're working on. Fair to say?
Fair to say. Totally.
Okay. So great leaders will grasp on this idea of let's turn that around and let's give the reps a way to self-correct, because that's the next step. Our company, Xvoyant, we have sales coaching technology that lives in the CRM. And so now we make it very visual on what are these ways to do this. And now instead of coming to the leader saying, tell me how to improve, big shot, they can actually self-correct. And instead of saying, I'll take you a deal, they can say, Jake, it looks to me like if I can get 10% better at this activity, it's worth X amount to me. Can you help me figure out how to do that? All of a sudden that changes.
Right.
So I would look at technology in a couple of different ways. I would look at technology to say, All right, if we're going to be looking at our sales process, there are 4 reasons that coaches have success.
Okay.
Number 1 is consistency. I would look at ways that technology can help you achieve consistency in having coaching conversations.
Yep. Continuity.
Okay.
Yep.
The number 1 reason coaching fails is they're inconsistent 2 ways. Number 1 is they don't have consistency in the one-on-one meeting, and they confuse it with QBR, pipeline review, and deal structuring.
Not the same thing.
And it's not.
No.
That's not. Now that we've talked about the tour guide rather than the travel agent,
Right.
you see why I say that.
Right.
That you got to take deals away from that
conversation.
That conversation,
Yeah.
right? So you need technology to help make sure you have consistency, whether it's simple calendaring or coaching technology that helps you make sure that you have frequency, okay?
Yep.
So frequency of doing it, but also consistency in what lens do you look at, right? I mean, you don't want to just have flavor of the month. It's another reason why that leaders fail is they don't understand the relationship between outcomes, sales stages, activities, skills, and existing company resources to help us develop those. Technology can help tie all of those together in a consistent way. Number 2, we don't have a good understanding of how process works, okay? Technology, we're at a point where nobody argues about sales process, but we still don't measure it very well. We still measure outcomes.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
We're not picking up the crumbs of how we got there. We're just measuring what was left in the end.
Yes.
Right.
So this is a really important takeaway for everyone, your leaders.
Right.
If process is strong, success is inevitable.
Right.
If process is weak, success is unsustainable. I would give you 3 keys to process. It comes down to 2 functions. Number 1, if you start enough opportunities, because last I checked, you can't close unless you start it first.
Right.
And then number 2, can you handle it efficiently? There's 4 metrics. I already talked about them in the velocity formula, but I would suggest there's 3 things that are process driven that you can use technology to help with. Number 1, start enough dollars. Take their goal and divide it by their win rate. Not what you think the win rate is. Technology can help you have a very precise win rate. Now, if you're off by 1 or 2 degrees on an airplane journey,
You're getting up so far out of the way.
you're going to miss.
Yep.
Being 98% right on how much process to do will have the same impact on a salesperson. And the leaders watching this need to have that, stop them in their tracks for a minute and say, do I understand what 100% right on process is? And it starts with how many dollars. So if I have a $1 million goal and a 50% win rate, I better have $2 million in the hopper. Make sense?
Totally.
Number 2, what's the deal flow associated with that? Meaning the number of opportunities that I'm chasing. I could get the $2 million by going and finding one big deal, but then my 50% win rate doesn't work anymore. So take your average deal size, and it better not be what you think it is generally, because that 1 or 2 degrees is the precision. Know your precise average deal size divided into that precise dollar amount, and if I have a $200,000 average deal size for a $2 million, I better have 10 deals in my hopper. If I have less than that, I'm going to run out of fuel before I get to the top of the mountain.
Right.
Okay? Most people don't know those 2 things. Technology will help you do that fast. Okay? 3rd, know your cycle time. What's your time from start to finish, and what's your time in stage? Now, let me tell you one of the big mistakes that I see, and this is really good for your leaders, Jake.
Okay.
Everybody says time kills deals. Everybody
Yeah.
who said that, raise your hand. Everybody on the other side's raising their hand. Okay?
Yep.
I got news for you. Poor salesmanship has killed way more deals than time ever will. Okay? So,
I will subscribe to that
Yes.
for sure.
So if you think that just going faster will solve problems, you're wrong. But what you do want to know is, for the average deal size you have, how long should it take? Because they should have a cadence. And the only reason we have sales stages, there's a reason. I mean, Salesforce has some killer research that why they went from 9 stages to 6 very recently. Okay, stages are only for one thing. It's for measuring speed. They are checkpoints along the way. Okay, you see these stages, you should be able to say, this is how long it should take me to go from stage to stage. And if you go too fast as a leader, that's cool, but you should also say, let's make sure they're not skipping steps. Because too often we'll skip some of the key experiences a customer needs to have in the name of, I want to be fast. Right. And I love Ricky Bobby, I want to go fast, okay? Yep. But I don't want to skip steps. Because the thing we haven't talked about yet, Jake, is the buy side of the process. If we just think, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this, and we skip a key customer experience, we're going to crash and burn.
Right. So you talked about 4 laws. We talked about 2 of them.
Yep.
What are the 3 and 4?
So we talked about binary thinking.
Yep.
We talked about modeling awesome.
Yep.
The other one is understanding process, and this is real simple. If process can be strong or weak, and outcomes can be good or bad, okay? And if so my outcomes are bad and my process is weak because I know how to measure it. Remember, dollars, deals, and speed. I can be faster or slower. I could be more or less in dollars. I can be more or less in deals. Outcomes are bad, process is bad, you got what you deserved. Don't feel bad unless you change the process. That's where you're going to be. Outcomes are bad, process is strong, we'll be patient. Need some cycle time here, okay? Outcomes are good, process is bad, you're getting lucky, it's unsustainable. Outcomes are good, process is good, congratulations, you earned it, and you're set up for more. That way of looking at process removes all defensiveness in a coaching conversation.
Of course.
Apply that. So if you can first be relevant by knowing where they are in their journey, what segment. Second, be relevant by understanding what parts of the process will help accelerate the way up the hill fastest. Third is know what awesome looks like. And the final one, okay, the one that I think is most important, create the moment that matters. And when you understand what needs to change, you have to have the so what conversation where Jake, you as my boss, would say, Rob, now that we know where you want to go, we know that we want to have this activity change or this skill develop, what do you want to do about it? And we have to have an activity or skill driven goal. It's not close that deal. I'm going to get to 10 calls instead of 7. I'm going to take that class. I'm going to take my boss on X number of calls with me, whatever it is. And we have to set a goal that has nothing to do with a customer saying yes or no. It's 100% on, will that rep show a willingness to change? And then you can measure, do they change or don't they? And very quickly you're going to find you have reps with bad outcomes that say I won't change, and those are toxic. You'll have some that have bad outcomes that do want to change, and that's part of your future. I'll have good outcomes that don't want to change, and they're an independent. I'll have good outcomes that want to and they still want to change, and those are your stars. And if I look at the process and the outcome side by side, you have 3D vision, and you know there's 8 types of reps, 8 types of goals to set, 8 different ways to be relevant, 8 different ways of spending time, and that takes you to the second one. I'm going to give a shout out to both of our friend Keenan. He says one of the moments that matters, observable moments. So I hope Keenan sees this and sees us give him love.
Jim, we love you.
Yep. The way I had a large institution ask me, Rob, here's the 2,000 calls my team went on last month. The president of the company says I need to be on more calls. Which one should I go on? You want to know how you create that moment that matters? Look at who's coachable. Spend time on calls with them. People that are not responding to coaching, I do most with people in that future box, second most of the people in the star box, some in the independent, and even if I have time left over, I wouldn't go on the toxics. Want to know why? All they have to do is hit some of those goals you set, and they'll jump over to the future, and I got time for you in spades, baby. But spend your time with those that value it, because Jake, guys like you are hard to get. You have a limited amount of time, and you should focus as much of your time creating observable moments that matter with those that value it.
Rob, on that note, I wish we could spend more time with guys like you. We appreciate this. This has been insanely insightful, and I know everyone at home's eating this up.
Good.
Where's someone you can direct them? Where's somewhere that you can direct our viewers to maybe absorb some more of this knowledge?
We got a lot of stuff. Our company, xvoyant.com, we build sales coaching technology. We have a resource center on our website with lots of videos that have some of these topics.
Awesome.
We give away a lot of free content. Our mission, my mission, is to help sales leaders become world-class leaders, because world-class reps are not hired. They are absolutely developed. And I'm passionate about helping the leaders of the world help people intentionally level up. And come see our free content. If you ever want to even have someone to talk to, hit me up at rob@xvoyant.com, and I will respond. And I love the concept of how do you raise your journey as a sales leader.
Did you guys hear that? He gave his email out.
Yep.
Take advantage of it. Rob, thanks again for joining us in the Adobe Sign Tea Lounge.
It's beautiful.
We love it. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.